How we doing, TinPail peeps? Sorry I haven't been doing a lot of videos recently. I've been obviously tied up with a lot of stuff with my kid's mum, which I'm just kind of making it out the other end, if you get me. And I went back to karate last night. I hadn't been for 2 weeks, whatever. So I feel like I'm just finally getting back to normal after Christopher's mum was staying here for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it kinda threw me out my routine. However, I just feel like I'm finally getting back to normal, and obviously I've been doing a lot of live shows on my channel. So, and I like the live shows. They're more interactive as opposed to me sitting here talking shit to a camera. But other than that, everything's fucking normal-ish. Ashley's still in the same kind of state, but I still try to get her the help that she needs and stuff like that. So here's hoping something happens before something happens, if you get me. But anyway, my podcast with Roy Larner, who the media refer to as the Line of London Bridge, is going live at 8:30 tonight on my YouTube. That's UK time, obviously. So I hope people tune in, watch it, and leave some feedback. He's a good guy. Done a very brave thing. Don't know if I could have done that. But in saying that, you just never know until you're in that situation. And in my eyes, that guy is a hero, hands down. And there should be a lot more people like him when they're seeing this type of thing happen. But the video I was going to make today was about it's a historic case, right? About a serial killer in Alaska. I've actually known about this case since I was in my teens from reading like FBI, know how those like Mindhunter books and stuff. The guy's name is Robert Hansen, but I had never actually read a book that was exclusively about Robert Hansen's case until I got this off Amazon. It's called Butcher Baker, a true account of a serial murderer. So for those of you that don't know anything about this case, I would say that Robert Hansen was a seemingly ordinary individual, or seemingly ordinary on the surface, which a lot of these guys are, but they overcompensate for whatever perceived inadequacy or shortcomings by committing acts of violence against a specific group, like women, children, gay people, whatever the fantasy is. And the thing is with Robert Hansen, he grew up in Iowa. I think he was born in the 50s or something, maybe. No, tell a lie. I'm sure he was born in the 1930s, and the reason that I remember that is because he actually died in 2014, and he was in his 70s, but my grandma died in 2015, and she was in her 70s, and she was born in 1938, I think. I think he was born in 1930 as well. So he grew up in Iowa, which is the Midwest of America, kind of a lot of farmland and agriculture, all this kind of stuff. And his parents, I don't know what his mum's occupation was. I think she may have been a school teacher, but I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. But his dad was a baker, hence the name Butcher Baker. Now that's a kind of a play on words, if you get me, because he was killing women for sport, right? And the FBI have said that they believe he was killing people in Iowa before he moved to Alaska. And he did have some charges that he went up for in Iowa. I believe he served a sentence for arson. He torched a school bus company, I think it was, and I can't find anything about alleged murders that he may have committed. But anyway, he's moved to Alaska, and then this pattern of serious offending has taken place, where he was stalking and abducting and raping women, for which he served a sentence. I think one of the women was an estate agent, so he was picking on like street people. And then one day he seen this woman who was not a street person. She was I think she was a real estate agent or a something like that. And he followed her home and tried to confront her, not, but he served a sentence for that. So he was on. He played the mental illness card and said he was hearing voices, all this shit, just a ploy to get out his predicament, really. Psychopath, you know what I mean? But he was released in I think it was the 1970s, the late 70s, and by the very early 1980s, which is when I was born in 1982, and I'm sure that was the year that Anchorage is, I think it's the biggest city in Alaska, but it's not the capital city. The capital city is Juneau, but I think Anchorage is the biggest city. It's probably the most well-known city if you've ever heard any places there. So he was basically going to strip clubs, frequenting prostitutes, and then some of them, I believe, he was using either for a dry run to commit an offence or building up trust, whatever, and he was killing them. Now, I think by the time he had come to the attention of the Anchorage Police Department, he'd racked up at least 17 homicides of women. And the reason that he came to... So let me just tell you a wee bit about his modus operandi. So what he would do is he would meet a stripper or whatever, or a sex worker, and he would arrange a photo shoot. He would say he was a cameraman and all this shit, and then once he got them in his clutches. Now remember, this is a guy who's an upstanding citizen, middle class. He owned a bakery, he went to church, nobody knew who he really was under the surface, even his family, and he had 2 children. But anytime his wife would like go out of town to see her family or whatever, this is when he would come out to work, which bears parallels to the Long Island serial killer case that I covered recently. Same kind of thing. Wait till the wife's away, then it's playtime, you know, Satan's playground type shit. And he abducted a 17-year-old girl, assaulted her over a period of a few days, and what he would always do with the victims was drive to a private airfield where he had a Piper Cub plane, it's called, and he would fly them to a remote cabin where he would release them into the wild. But listen, this is Alaska, there's nowhere to fucking go. You have to fly a plane to get here, like a small plane. It's like the wilderness, just barren landscape, frozen tundra, the fucking lot, nowhere to hide. And he would hunt them down with a hunting rifle, and just like hunting wild game, because Robert Hansen was by all reports, an accomplished hunter. And I believe that he'd actually been entered into the Guinness Book of World Records for whatever the accolade was for hunting, but then when it came out who he really was, they removed this. And the creepy thing was, he had clearly abducted this 17-year-old girl, Cindy Paulson. He took her, after abducting her and keeping her prisoner for a few days, he took her to the airfield, tried to fly out to the wilderness where he was clearly going to kill her. One-way trip. But this young girl saw a chance, the only chance she was going to get, and she escaped from the back of his car while he was loading up the plane. She flagged down a trucker, and rather than go to the cops, she went to... Now, this lassie was, what we say in Scotland, on the game, which basically means she's a sex worker, she's prostituting herself, offering services for money. Rather than go to the cops, she went to a hotel where her pimp / boyfriend was, and she had one handcuff dangling from her wrist, which when the cops were notified, she just wanted the thing removed, but one of the cops digged a bit deeper and saw that this guy, just something wasn't adding up. He'd falsified an alibi as well, but from one of his neighbours. And this cop's superiors kind of fobbed it off because his social standing, which is fucking nuts to me, because to me, if I was a cop, the way I would be thinking was, if your name came to my attention, the cleaner you are, especially if you had these type of allegations, these are the type of things I would probably expect to see in a lot of these types of offenders. Like, oh, he's never came to their attention, or he's an upstanding citizen. Like, go and fucking look in well, I don't think they had computers back then, it was all paperwork and shit. We're talking about the 70s and the 80s, right? DNA testing wasn't a thing, neither was computers, databases, all that shit. Everything was fucking old-fashioned detective work and writing out fucking reports, all that shit. But if anybody had checked up on him, they would have seen this guy has a history of hurting women. So one of the coppers in Anchorage PD had transferred the file to the state police, who took up the case. And at first I think Cindy Paulson was reluctant to testify, and you know what, I totally get that, because there's this mistrust of authority. I've been there myself, like, no way cops obviously, but like social work, prison staff, or pro people, oh, we'll help you, and no help ever comes. So anytime they do ask, do you need help, you just tell them to go fuck themselves, basically, because you've been round this block before, sort of thing. But one of the bodies that was found, one of the victims, there had been an attempt to remove the head. Now, that caught my attention when the police raided Robert Hansen's house, because on his wall, his basement, he had stuffed animal heads that he had caught, that he'd hunted and killed, and trophies. And when I read that he'd tried to remove the head of one of his victims, I thought to myself, is this the next step up from hunting an animal? To me, it clearly is. That was probably, in his eyes, his biggest trophy. Hunting humans without a shadow, I would say, for me personally, without a shadow of a doubt, other people might argue differently, but that's up to them. But when they were searching the house, they had him in custody, and one of the things that they found in his house was a map of Alaska, with all these little blue crosses on it, or these little X marks the spot. To me, it's pretty clear what those X's are. These are either body deposition sites or kill sites, probably both. Pretty dark shit. And you think to yourself, how long has that guy been getting away with that? Do you know what I mean? And he only died in 2014, so he'd been in prison quite a long time. Just a wee fucking scrawny fucking beast, a wee sex offender, you know what I mean? But not even all of the victims were identified, which is pretty sad. And I think they only recently identified one. Oh, sorry, my shell's moving. It's got wheels on the bottom, obviously. But he was sentenced to like fucking, I think he got sentenced to like 500 years or some shit. But it is a pretty interesting case. See if you're interested in this type of shit. Maybe read that book, Butcher Baker. I don't know if there's any other one. But what was I going to say? So there was something I wanted to read out, and it's online. It's called it's about his first crimes, his first known crimes. I want to say, you'll almost never catch somebody like this the first time round. Almost never. So it said, on December 7th, 1960, Hansen was arrested for burning down a Pocahontas County school bus garage as revenge for his mistreatment in high school. See, I'd read this about him. He was always being bullied because he had bad acne and a stutter. And I think he blamed that on females. Said he served 20 months of a 3-year prison sentence in Anamosa State Penitentiary, during which his first wife divorced him. So my money says that this type of guy, for his wife to divorce him, would have probably reinforced his kind of narcissism and his misogyny, his kind of misogynistic views on women, and they're all fucking using bastards, whatever, just a wee fucking insecure freak show. During his incarceration, Hansen was diagnosed with manic depression with periodic schizophrenic episodes. Psychiatrists who made the diagnosis noted he had an infantile personality and was obsessed with getting back at people he felt had wronged him. Well, I know a wee bit about that, mate. Something I could maybe understand, but knowing his context whatsoever. So he's been charged with a lot. He had a lot of theft in his history, and I'm sure I read in the literature of serial murder that a lot of these guys have thefts. Like, you would expect to see a lot of like beastie crimes, but a lot of them have crimes of dishonesty, thefts, and what was the other one? Oh, fuck knows, forget. But anyway, over the next few years, Hans was jailed several times for petty theft. In 1967, he moved to Anchorage, Alaska, with his second wife, whom he married in 1963 and had 2 children. Excuse me. In Anchorage, he was well liked by his neighbours and set several local hunting records. So this is a way for him to because hunting's big in America, especially places like Alaska where there's a lot of like bears and fucking whatever. So that would have been a way for him to blend in and seem like one of the boys, you know what I mean? When the guy's just an absolute fucking scumbag. He'd been arrested in 1971, December, twice in that month. First, for abducting and attempting to grape an unidentified housewife, then for raping an unidentified sex worker. He pleaded no contest to assault with a deadly weapon in the former offence. The rape charge involving the sex worker was dropped as part of a plea bargain. Hansen was sentenced to 5 years in prison. After serving 6 months of his sentence, he was placed in a work release programme and released to a halfway house. 6 months into serving 5 year sentence, he was out on fucking work release. Whipped, man. Is that a testament to what the law thought of his crime, or is that a testament to how clever he pulled the wool out of people's eyes? 1976, he was pleaded guilty to larceny. Oh shit, man, fucking yawning. After he attempted to steal a chainsaw from a store. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fucking stealing a chainsaw. That's funny, mate. That's funny. They fucking should have chopped him up with it, if you ask me. But it says here, he's believed to have begun killing around 1972, right now. Wait now. When was he born? 1939, right? Possible. But if I had to guess, I would say, I believe there's a high possibility he probably committed a murder in his home state, and that could be the reason that he moved to Alaska. It's like putting as much distance between himself and the first homicide, because a lot of the FBI profilers and stuff tell you can learn the most about the offender by the first murder they commit. And I believe that if he did commit a murder in Iowa, the victim was probably known to him, and that was the reason that he left. Because they don't know who if you kill somebody that they can't link you to, then there's no really any chance of you getting caught, especially back then. Fucking hell. Sorry about that. So his modus operandi is believed to have been to stalk a woman, to learn her habits, eventually picking her up in a car, forcing her into gunpoint in his home, where he would grape her, then stab or shoot her. Some of the women Hansen murdered were sex workers, many were teenagers. So he's a wee beast, you know what I mean? People that give me the fear, because there'll be people like this right now out there not even been caught. This could be my sister. Do you know what I mean? Your sister, your daughter, do you know what I mean? There's only one way to deal with them, mate. And it's no prison. But the investigation into him, I believe, was either the biggest or one of the biggest in that state, if not the country, at that time. Because I don't even believe the cops knew that there was women disappearing until the 17-year-old girl escaped. And see what's pure funny about it? Do you know that when the cops asked the FBI to write up a profile, do you know what they said on it? The feds, you know what the feds said? Oh, white male, fucking da, and probably stutters, right? See, when they found this scumbag, it was fucking know what I mean? Fucking stuttering like a fucking machine gun, know what I mean? But looking at his victims, like, it's just such a sad story, man. One of them is known as Eklutna Annie, because she was found on Eklutna Road. They don't know who she is to this day. They found her on July 21st, 1980. And for the facial reconstruction I saw, it looked like she could have been maybe of Native American heritage, but I think her body had been largely eaten by wildlife, so just it's so sad, man, just to think there's people like nobody's even came forward, because it's either she didn't have family or her family didn't realise she was missing, or they don't know what happened to her. It's just so sad. But it says here, once arrested, Hansen was charged with assault, kidnap, multiple weapons offences, theft and insurance fraud. The last charge was related to a claim filed with his insurance company over the alleged theft of some hunting trophies. He used the proceeds to purchase his plane. So he's had all this planned out, because he's not going to leave bodies lying over Anchorage, because that would tip the cops off that there was a serial killer. So I believe it 100%. I believe in how it was done. At trial, he claimed he later recovered. At trial he claimed he later recovered his trophies in his backyard, but forgot to inform the insurer. Okay. Hansen entered into a plea bargain after ballistic tests returned a match between bullets found at the crime scenes and his rifle. He pleaded guilty to the 4 homicides the police had evidence for, and provided details about his other victims in return for serving his sentence in a federal prison, along with no publicity in the press. Aye. Another condition of the plea bargain was his participation in deciphering the markings on his aviation map and locating his victims' bodies. Hansen confirmed the police theory of how the women were abducted, adding that he would sometimes let a potential victim go if she convinced him that she would not report him to the police. He indicated that he began killing in the early 1970s. I take it in this fucking cockroach head with a pinch of salt, but he showed investigators 17 grave sites in and around south central Alaska, 12 of which were unknown to the investigators. There remain marks on his map that he refused to give up, including 3 in Resurrection Bay near Seward. Authorities suspect 2 of these marks are the graves of Mary Till and Megan Emmerich, whom Hansen has denied killing. But there's a body there, mate. The remains of 12 of a probable 21 to 37 victims were exhumed by the police and returned to their families. Fuck me, man. You imagine going through that? Do you know what I mean? It's good that they got, I hate the word, like closure, but it's in this context, there's no such thing as, I don't think there's a such thing as closure. I wouldn't think so. Hansen was sentenced to 461 years in prison without the possibility of parole. In 1988, they sent him to a federal prison in Lewisburg, but sent him back to Alaska in the late 80s, where he was in prison till May 2014, where he was transferred to Anchorage Correctional Complex for health reasons, but he died on August 21st, 2014, aged 75, at Alaska Regional Hospital in Anchorage, due to natural causes related to lingering health conditions. Hopefully he felt a wee bit, know what I mean? But you can actually watch a decent movie about it with Nicolas Cage. It's called Frozen Ground. It's a really good movie, and it's pretty dark as well. But I'd wanted to do this ages ago, but I just never really get round to it because of everything else that I was doing. But I thought I would just come on and do it today, because obviously I haven't done a video like that in a wee while, and it's just kind of churning out more stuff in it. But what was I going to say? I hope you will watch my Roy Larner podcast anyway. Interesting story, powerful story about like what actually happened to this guy, what this guy witnessed and went through. It's on at 8:30. on my channel, so hope you like it if you do watch it. I'll probably go live after it's finished, so if you're about, feel free to tune in. But I'm going to leave it there, and hope you're all going to have a good weekend, and I'll see you all later on. Bye.